So we are back. The recording is active. So so Bahamut takes the halberd from you, and you see as he touches it, the same kind of iridescent glow from within that comes from his scales also begins to glow from the inside of the weapon, uh, and kind of spreads as he puts his hand on it. So he puts his hand on it, and the glow kind of spreads along the metal until the whole thing is glowing. The jewels inside begin to almost sparkle with almost radiate an inner fire on them, and you see along the sharp edge, you see it's almost like fire is crawling across it, and etching these fine waves into the metal, and this level of detail. It's almost like a cross between fractal geometry and circuitry, uh, that begins to glow that begins to glow in pictographic runes along the entire length of the metal.
Hmm.
And he says, yes, yes, very powerful. Look at all the look at the layers and layers of enchantments upon this item. Yes, this must have been the equivalent of one of the weapons of 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 the high executors, to be such,
Yeah,
those who were in charge of passing judgment
I was
upon.
actually a general in the military when I was in service.
Yes, you became quite powerful. But it is interesting the way I can feel the echo of my brother's power inside it. Here, you reach and he strikes a claw on it, and it resonates with with a loud, says, yes, the fundamental tone. Can you hear it? The fundamental tone. That is the first tone of the word of creation, the one that allows you to change things.
Hmm.
As a paladin, as a protector of this place, you must be able to harness this word. So, and he lifts it up, and he bangs it on the floor. This tone shall deafen all those who oppose you, and hands it back to you. Such is such martial magic that was imprinted upon it. I can only imagine how embattled my brother must have been. But tell me, what do you know of the sister there?
Hmm?
What do you know of? Tell me, what do you know? Tell me what you may have heard of Tiamat.
Um. Well, I'm not quite sure. I I've never really heard much about her.
Hmm.
I've heard like a myth or two that she was that she was killed at some point, but that was it.
Indeed, that may be one symptom of how your world may have been out of balance. For if my sister was dead and only I remained, I can see how the forces of evil would be able to creep upon them unawares. For it is when we believe that we have won that we are at our most vulnerable, when our guard gets let down. Interesting. Perhaps, perhaps it is worth sending you on a visit to my sister. It has been a long time since any emissary since I've sent any emissaries to her. Long has it been since she has answered any of the emissaries which I have sent her. Some of those emissaries have not returned. So perhaps but she is not far from Solaire. Perhaps perhaps you should travel there to see if the to see if to see if her influence has spread there, or if any traces of the influence which you have found exist there.
Hmm.
Tell me, when you encountered this calamity, what was it that brought it about?
Um, well, I seem to remember some being called Groomsh was
Yes. What effect what effect did Grumsh have among the mortals?
well, first when he deposed you, he took over all your temples and everything, and converted all the other priests and all the other priests and paladins of of those churches to go and to being and to following him and still and thinking that he is paladin, and
Mm,
he led them on a on a great inquisition to go ahead and purge all the other races from the island.
indeed, and and Grumsh one I was successful in this.
He was he was almost successful in his endeavors, and it was really only a couple of outliers that some of which, including me, were able to avoid. And the reason why I was able to avoid his purge in the first place was mainly because I the one I wasn't a paladin at the point that the Inquisition happened, and two, I knew I well, and second of all, I didn't go to I didn't go to a church of him. I encountered him on my own time. It not I encountered Paladine on my own time. And three, I I was seeing as how Grimston I didn't like I, I didn't like the other races and only humans. I highly doubt that he would look to the Feywild in order to go ahead and corrupt people there.
Indeed, but if this corruption around that land, there is perhaps some trace of it that has come through with you. So
Yes,
my first task for you is to go to this place and find the others through who came through with you, and be sure that they are not carrying the same sort of taint here.
yes. Although I'm pretty sure that I removed and destroyed the curse that ached the isle when I changed the timeline, because the entire reason why it was sent here was because the curse was lifted.
Indeed.
And
Very
I
well,
think the
yes.
plan.
I do not feel any trace of the curse in your weapon, and if any trace of it were to remain, it would be lodged within the power of my defeated brethren. However, perhaps traveling to this place to be sure. You never know when when reality is slivered, you never know what's going to seep through.
Yes, especially seeing as how it was a rift in time. Maybe it's slipped. Maybe a little bit of it slipped through from the past timeline of that timeline's past into ours when we traveled over.
Very well. So you must travel to Solaire soon.
So how must I get there?
You have only recently come here. You require time to rest.
Okay.
This does not appear to be something that is in immediate need of doing, but it will take you some time to travel
Yes.
there. Well, I suppose perhaps I could arrange. Yes, I'm certain I could. If you wish, I could send you there, but it might be a little odd.
Hmm.
Well, you see, when you travel through when your body is not fluid as a god is, reality is more fluid to us than it is to mortals. Mortals perceive reality as much more solid than it actually is. And well, it is sometimes disconcerting to be stuffed through holes that are smaller than yourself. But you do get used to it.
Sometimes
So,
through winding the hole.
do you wish to travel the fast way then?
Uh, well, what's the fast way?
The fast way is for you to travel through the etheric network, the energetic network of ley lines that connect the entire planet, and 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 from one of the portals on my couch, you can you can step into any temple in my creation.
Gone through a couple portals in my time. It shouldn't be too bad this time.
Excellent. I'm glad you feel that way. You may perhaps feel differently after you go through, because these are made for me and for for my hand servants. So I suppose now that you are in my service, you shall need to get used to it.
So, is it like a physical size limit,
Uh,
or is it a mental size limit?
Consider it a transmutation of yourself. It is a squeezing and a squeezing and a remolding, perhaps. He and
Um,
he drains the last of his wine, sets the cup down on the table, and says, "A week off for everyone. All hail the all hail the all hail the newest protector of the empire." And all the kobolds around you all shout, "Gopla!"
I see that all of them are speaking Draconic.
Indeed, it is their native tongue. Feast, feast, my children, feast. Let there be music. Let there be merriment. Come, come, Paladoon. Let us go. And he walks out the door of the feast hall.
So yeah, they all speak Draconic as their native tongue.
Yes, Draconic is the native tongue of kobolds in the empire.
Is it different elsewhere?
Now, there are different dialects of it, perhaps. I imagine the kobolds who live under my sister are they they're probably not allowed to speak much, actually.
Well, it's a good thing I learned Draconic in my time.
Indeed, he begins speaking to you in Draconic. You notice that his dialect is slightly different, and it's almost as if he's pronouncing each syllable is almost like three different syllables inside of itself. Like there's a hidden complexity that he speaks that you hadn't heard before.
Hmm.
A difference of nuance and precision.
Yeah, the reason why I asked that they all speak why all the kobolds and that live under your rule as speak Draconic is because the kobolds that lived where I lived spoke a different language
What did
than the dragons.
what did your what did your people speak?
Uh, we spoke a tongue native to the kobolds alone, not not that of dragons or any other species.
Indeed, how remarkable! Your people developed your own tongue. How
Yes.
amazing! And you break and you come through into what seems to be what is it seems to be like an open sky, but you're actually on the side of the giant cavern on a large balcony. Far off in the distance, it looks like probably at least a half mile. You can see the great couch floating in the sea of treasure. And he says, "Yeah, should we go should we go the quick way, or do you want to walk the entire way?"
Uh, I think that there would be many more ways faster than just walking. But seeing as how this is a new mode of travel, I'm open to new experiences.
Indeed. He reaches his hand out to you.
I take it.
You take it, and he jumps off the balcony, dragging you with him. You begin falling towards the cavern floor. Rushes up at you quickly, and you see him morphing and changing into into a huge, immense version of what you've seen. He's at least 400 feet long of platinum scaled coils, with much the same nose and snout as what you've seen, but now he has these giant malabranch horns that that coral shaped horns that extend from the back of his head, and long silky whiskers that come down from off the sides of his face. He only has two forearms, and you can see spinning around his head like electrons around an impossibly complex nucleus are a are almost a small sea of Ioun stones that each of them are glowing with like a different type of brilliance. It's an entire kaleidoscopic rainbow of planets seemingly orbiting him, and he's still carrying you in one hand, and but now that he's 400 feet long, a half mile is not very far at all. So he slithers quickly across the sea of the sea of treasure. You see kobolds on working on the floor, darting and diving out of his way. Even though as he slithers, he manages to avoid all of them regardless. Uh, and then he deposits you on the ramp going up, and then seems to kind of elastically come back together into the standing on the ramp next to you, as his 12-inch high version. It's a little bit wrenching to watch a creature that big kind of appear to be to seeming to squish down into something that small. It's kind of disconcerting, and it happens with a bit of a pop as well. Um, and 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 the old and the old tiny lizard taps on the side of the wall, and you see runes begin to light up on the section of ramp next to you, and the stone begins to pucker in and creates it, and almost as if almost as imagine a piece of fabric that's stretched over a large gap, and you drop a marble in the middle. It seems to stretch out like that. And he says that and he says, "Here, this shall take you to the temple in Vion."
Okay. Um. Well, have fun while I'm gone, and keep an eye on my kids for me for while I'm gone. Thank
Un-
you.
Undoubtedly, I shall go with go with my blessings, Paladoon. Make me proud.
I will, and I step through.
You step into the you step into the into the event horizon here, and you feel your and you feel your you feel begin to feel an immense pressure, like you're being squished down, very small. uh it seems like you turn around and look, and you see what you see, the the round shape that you began stepping into. It's almost like you've stepped into a long tunnel, and it seems to be and with every step that you take, it seems to be stretching out, it seems to be stretching farther and farther away from you. You turn and look back in the direction in which you're headed, and you see a tiny little pinpoint of light, and you seem to be pushing forward. It's like there's just like almost like you're walking into some sort of pressurized jello that's pushing you back, and you're squeezing forward, and it's like you've got this little tiny thing, and it's like you're having to crawl deeper and deeper into a tunnel that just is getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and it takes more and more effort for you to step through. And just when it finally feels like the pressure pushing against you is going to reach against you, you finally feel like you're up to the dot, and you reach your hand forward and you touch it, and then you feel a push from behind, almost as if like a zit being squeezed, and you go and you burst out of a giant mural in the middle of a service. There's loud organ music around you, and a huge statue of Paladine as 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 a humanoid, wearing a but there's no face. There's just the valiant helmet with 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 the sunburst behind it. Very similar to the one you remember seeing in the human city of Vion in your place. Uh, and and you come just going right out of the altar in the middle of service. Roll me a dexterity check.
Um. Okay. That's a corner roll. That is a 2
Oh
plus
no.
my dexterity of wait no what kind of save?
It's a dex save.
Dex save.
It's just to keep your feet, which it
That
doesn't.
is a 2 plus 1 is 3.
Oh no. So you don't wipe out anyone or anything like that, but you do come tumbling out. You're like, ah! And you hit the floor with a clang of armor against the marble floor. They're in the middle of the service in which in which the great in which the great in which the great in which the great scale is being lifted, in the middle of the service. And so right as and all shall call forth his name, and you come forward, and there's a huge out of the crowd of assembled mixed species.
Out of character, I just want to say something.
Yeah.
And then Yoda said, that altar had a child.
That altar had a child. Sorry. Um, I like to dance and boogie. That'll be the next time you you go back and see Paladine. We'll do one of those. Um, so yeah, so I mean there's a I mean the temple is full. There's probably around 2,000 people that just watched you just watch the just watch that altar have a child or have a kobold rather. And of course, you know, you've got a big draconic face, but your helmet it looks a lot like Paladine's helmet. But here the statue of Paladine does not have a draconic face. And but you're also a short-faced kobold too, so it's not a full draconic face. So there's oh my, oh amazing.
um,
The priest of Paladine that's officiating at the altar appears to be an orc of all creatures, and is and with and the very pale skin and square jaw with the protruding lower teeth looks at you and says, "Where did you come from?"
um, I was sent here to go ahead and protect against and to go ahead and check and to go ahead and check a place nearby for some for some and for some corruption, and I, I popped out here. Sorry for interrupting.
He looks.
I go ahead and then sit.
The
I go ahead and
scale has answered our prayers. All hail the scale! And he holds it up, and and all the parishioners shout, "All hail the scale! The scale has sent us a protector! Yeah, yeah, yes, protect us, protect us!" So they're all cheering, and you're standing there.
okay then. That's uh. So is the, I then go ahead and I
Yeah,
go ahead and
the
find it.
cheering dies down, and they're all just like listening to see if you say anything. Like,
I then go ahead and to go ahead and not cause any more of a ruckus. Find a spot to sit down on one of the benches. To
really?
go
You're
ahead.
just gonna go and sit down on one of the benches?
Yeah, in order to go ahead and let them continue with their service.
Okay. You go and sit down. As you go and sit down, they you see very well dressed, obviously wealthy, well heeled people who are sitting in the front row. They make a spot for you, and as you walk up, roll a perception check.
Okay then. That is a 19 plus my perception of that's wisdom. So
Enough
19
to
plus
you've got
6.
enough to see it.
Okay.
There's actually a large plaque on the side of the pew that says that says that says the Tagmanius family. And sure and sure enough, the Tagmanius family is sitting in the pew that bears their name, and they're the the woman, the matronly looking woman, is dripping with expensive jewelry, and the man is wearing very fine but very severely cut clothes, but you see he's wearing a heavy gold chain as well, and they make room, say, "Protector, please sit,"
Thank you.
and they just seem like, "Oh, he's sitting where I was sitting. It's amazing. What a great honor." And the priest goes on and resumes the service. It takes another 15 minutes or so for the service to wrap up. At which point he says, may Paladine bless you all. All hail the celestial empire. and they all hail his all hail the empire on earth, and people begin getting up and walking out. The the Sever the head of the Tiberius family, now that it's over, turns to look at you and says, "So, tell me, Protector, I am the mayor of this town. Tell me,
Yeah.
how may we serve you, Protector?"
Um. Well, I was sent over here to go ahead and check out a place to see if there's anything happening
Oh,
nearby. And it's
there is much happening here, great Protector. We are we are creating great opportunities, and we are spreading the word of Paladine as much as we can.
okay then. Um, Nice to hear that, but I was not sent over here to go ahead and check that out. But I'm sure that Paladine is is pleasured to hear about that. Um, I I I state I state my mission to them.
Oh well, Solaire is about a day's ride down up the Aswal River. Um, we can I will have my fastest ship carry you.
Okay then. Uh, I I have a mount, but thank you for the offer.
And at this point the priest and now several of the acolytes are follow the priest as you and the as you and Mayor Treverius, is that what I said, Treverius?
Uh, I think so.
As you and Mayor Treverius begin walking out, and he appears to be like trying to herd you out of the place, and you turn and look behind you, and you see there's an entire progression led by the priest, and they're trying to catch up with you they're running down the end of the temple like oh, and you see, and several of the acolytes are like swinging censers, and there's big waft of smoke following them, and all this other stuff, and you step out of the sanctuary into the antechamber of the temple, and it looks like a bazaar out there. That there's ware sellers and all sorts of stuff, and all of the people who were attending the ritual are now milling through this kind of like shopping mall area outside.
No, I don't seem to remember either being either being a either being allowed a a shopping mall of sorts being in front of temples.
Oh yes, 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 great protector. There was a we've we we've we found that allowing the great families to sell their wares here immediately allows people allows the populace to come and buy the things they want on immediately on the before they go home for their evening meal.
Hmm. Uh,
But only the faithful are allowed to sell here.
okay. I I didn't know that. I didn't know that this was a thing that happened around here. But okay then. I'll double check with Paladine once I get back. Um,
He look he roll an insight check.
Insight.
Yes.
Um, okay. Insight is intelligence.
Sure.
Uh, could that also be a religion check?
No, no.
No.
It could
Okay.
also be a perception check.
Insight is a +2 since I don't have a since I don't have a proficiency in that. That is a 2.
Okay. Uh,
Insight +2 is 4.
okay. So you're so he seems to make a bit of a face, but you don't really understand what it means, and he quickly seems to master himself and begins to usher you even a little bit faster. Like, oh, he doesn't really like this. Okay, let's get him out the door before he keeps looking at this. And you see behind him, and so you're halfway through this bazaar of people. When the beginning of the train of acolytes and priests begins entering the bazaar. So they're chasing behind you. The priest is holding aloft the large ritual holy symbol of Paladine, chasing you, you know, holding it when and the giant scale is mounted upon it. He's and all the acolytes are chasing. So there's a huge waft of smoke that begins that begins that begins pouring into the antechamber, and everyone you hear a couple voices in the crowd going, "Oh, oh, a parade! Oh, they haven't done one of these in years." And the mayor hustles you out the front door. There's this gargantuan statue, the same one that you remember from Vion before, but it uh, that you walk out through the you walk out between the legs of Paladine, who is who's holding the scales aloft in front of him, a humanoid version, um, but a huge statue that's in front, and you walk down the steps in front of the temple, and you look back and around, and it is nighttime here. The two moons are the moon is high in the sky, and you can see the small moon just beginning to come out from behind the larger moon.
That's new. Don't seem to remember that. I don't seem to remember if everyone ever having a second moon.
Uh, yes, you don't remember that.
Hmm. I need to go ahead and make a note of that in order to go ahead and ask Paladine about that too.
So he takes you outside and says, "Yes, great one. Come quickly. The docks are this way." And
Okay.
and he and he and he whistles loudly, and you see a gilded carriage parked outside the front of the temple, and when he whistles, you see three richly dressed footmen. Uh, they look up and and they start and they see you coming, and they begin quickly readying the horses and such. And one of them gets the door open just before the guy put more or less just put like lifts you up and throws you into the thing. Uh, but he tries to lift you, but your armor is very heavy, and so he's like, "Oh, good God! Oh, how are you so?" And the foot
I thought magic items were supposed to be were supposed to be much lighter than they than their other non magical equivalent.
to those to for those who are attuned to it.
Hmm. Maybe I should help him. Maybe I should go ahead and.
Well, you could also just, you know, there are steps that are leading up to the carriage, so you could just walk.
Yeah, I do that.
He's like, oh, yes, yes, go ahead. He looks back, he looks back over his shoulder, and then climbs up past you and says, go, you fools!
I I asked the dude who was struggling and lift me up. I asked him, "Are you all right?"
Yes, yes, I'm fine, sir. And
Are you,
and the mayor says, away with you, and and shuts the curtain in his face. Um,
that that wasn't too kind of you.
yes, yes, of course. Well, you know, you have to. Sometimes, you know, there are more important uses of great people's time, such as yours. So we shall depart on my ship immediately before you have a chance to speak with the priest, of course. Um, uh,
But uh, um, but a person like me, they wanted they wanted to speak, so let them speak.
yes, of course. You know, you should get a chance to speak, but you said you need to go to Solaire immediately. Yes.
Yes, but if
Yes.
there's if people need to speak, then let them speak.
Well,
If a person need,
if you have a message to deliver, speak it to me now before you leave on your journey, and
if,
I shall relay your message to the people.
if it I wasn't sent here as a messenger. I was asking him if he was all right. If you had sprained any if you had sprained or sprained a joint or pulled a muscle or something.
Oh no, I'm sure he's fine. He's sturdy fellow him.
Okay. I also ask you to be kinder in your words in the future.
He
Not
seems
and in the with just a few of the right words can change a person's view in in dramatic ways. In it's been shown in history and shown in studies.
as you say, great protector. It shall be so. Now we are approaching the docks. My greatest ship is there. Do you have any other message that you would like to give the faithful?
Um. Well. Um. I wasn't sent as a messenger, so I don't have a message to carry. So
Indeed. So
if,
the mess.
if there's a message, if there's a message that all of you need to hear, either an either either another one of me is going to pop out of the altar and tell you guys the message, or you're going to hear it hear it when you're in prayer.
Indeed, great one. Thank you very much. We shall await your reappearance from the altar.
I Okay then. Um,
And the door opens up, and you see and you see a large pleasure barge uh floating in the river, and you see one of the footmen running toward it, waving a torch like you know, and you see a couple of puzzled looking sailors on top of it like what what and and the one footman's like running towards them like like with like his hair is on fire, uh and the sailors on top of it look a little confused. um there's a few other people around because it's nighttime. There's not a whole lot going on. There's a few other ships at berth along the river. You can see across the river. It's probably it's probably a good 1,000 feet. The river is kind of a little wide at this point. Um, and you can see across it. There's more city on the other side.
hmm.
And the mayor is escorting you quickly towards the boat.
Okay then. Well, I I I tell him thank you. I thank you for the escort. Out of character, real quick. What are you doing, little thing, a little cat? Escorting me over to a ship, and uh, once I before I start boarding the ship, I go ahead and call my I call up my mount, Dawn.
you hear a you hear blah, 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 as it and seemingly from behind a building, Dawn comes bounding out and running and and runs jumps over the ship's railing and lands in a big pile on the deck next to you.
I say, good boy. All right, find a spot to get comfortable. I think it's gonna be a long ride.
and it and Don curls up uh, curls up around the mast and is just like on the mast, and his color changes to match the wood, so he kind of blends in with the wood and disappears against it. All of the sailors are looking amazed, like like, what was that? What was that? And the one sailor that was coiling some rope on the deck says, "What's what?" He says, "There was a giant lizard up on the mast." And the other guy looks up, who had been coiling rope and didn't see. Said, "I don't see anything. Just go back to your work. Get ready to sail. The mayor said be ready to sail."
Hmm. All right then. So
The
I
ship's and the ship slips its moorings and begins to begins to float out into the river. You see oars go out either side of the barge, and you hear a drum begin beating, boom, 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 and the oars begin beating in time with the drum.
hmm.
The barge progresses slowly because it is going upstream against the current, which is why you have to use the oars. There's not doesn't seem to be much wind, and before too much longer, the city of Vion passes behind you to the north, as you progress south through the night. You hear the row the steady drumbeat of the rowers keeps time as you go upriver. You and Don sit on the deck, and you watch the moon's arch overhead, as the smaller moon begins to rise from behind the lobe of of the uh, the waxing crescent moon. It begin you begin you're able to see it briefly before it begins to go into the umbra of the greater moon and disappears from view.
Hmm.
And you spend and I imagine at some point you fall asleep, and as you, and overnight, when you wake up, the drumbeat is still going, but you wake up and you see off in the distance, shrouded by clouds, appears to be a great mountain rising in the distance.
Wow.
And you are rowing straight toward it.
So I go down below decks to where the oars are peeking out.
Uh huh.
Uh, I go down there and check to see if all the to see if the to see if the rowers are the rowers and the and the drum beater is doing okay.
The the you go below decks, and you see all the rowers are dressed in rags. They are chained to the deck. They're chained to the floor below them, and the chains are only short enough to allow them to continue to pull. There's a mixture of races, of species, and you see all of them are branded with the rune of Paladine on their cheek.
Oh my.
The drum beater is a particularly is a particularly beefy looking dwarf, who also bears the brand on his cheek. His rags look slightly less raggedy, and he looks a little bit better fed. And he's beating the drum in time for all the rest of them. They're all really hot and sweaty. It looks like they've been exerting themselves for hours without a break.
Um. Wow.
None of
So
them appears to notice you,
okay.
but you're also
So
just standing in the doorway looking at them.
yeah. So am I able to cast Lesser Restoration as like a as like an area spell as like an area spell? And also, would Lesser Restoration be able to remove tiredness
Hmm.
and and aches and
If you want to try to cast it as like a ritual spell, you can take 10 minutes and roll three spell casting checks.
mm,
Wisdom, I believe, is your spell casting gives you your spell casting
okay.
modifier.
So now would Lesser Restoration I give the effect that I desire?
It's not meant to be used in this way, but if you wish to spend time and attempt to cast it as a ritual, you have all the requisite things to do, and you know the ritual to cast. So I don't mind homebrewing something because it's not meant to be used in this way, but I'll allow it because
I
it's
know,
cool.
like
It's cool for flavor.
yeah, but is it is does Lesser Restoration remove tiredness and fatigue?
It can, yes,
It can.
yes.
Okay,
But
so I cast
it usually only works on one person at a time, but I'll allow that you can do it since you're out of combat and you and I'm undoubtedly you have the ritual materials with you that you need to cast it. I'll allow you to cast it as a ritual spell because it's cool.
All right. Yeah. So I cast restoration on the on the rowers and the and the drummer in order to go ahead and remove fatigue and tiredness from them.
You step into the room and you're chanting lightly, and you reach out and you walk out past the drummer who misses a beat who misses a beat as you walk past. Like, oh, who is this? And when the drummer misses the beat, all of the rowers look up and they see you, and you see and they all stop, and they're watching you as you pull out your halberd and you lift it up and you slam it down on a metal the metal spike, the uh, metal bolt plate on one of their sets of chains, and it rings out, and it puts a, and the effect spreads, and you see as the wave of sound uh, exudes from where you strike it with your halberd. Strike the halberd of your the pommel of your halberd onto the bolt plate. The the wave of sound washes away all of their weariness and tiredness, and they all look around, almost as if they're refreshed, and they're all looking at you like and the oars have all stopped, and they're all looking at you with their jaws just wide open, like, and what one of the one of the slaves looks up at you and that's right in front of you is a very slight, skinny, very gaunt halfling woman, and she looks up at you and says, "Are you here to free us, sir?"
Um. I would certainly love. I would certainly love to free you now, but that is not what I'm sent to do. But I will definitely bring this up to my to my. I will definitely bring this up to Paladine
She
because for this is not for this is very for this is very out and for this is a very outrageous thing to do to and do to people like all of you here.
the
You should,
the halfling woman, clearly disappointed, seems to sink down a little bit and says almost like she's said it 1,000 times. Paladine Paladine puts the chains on those who require it, and breaks the chains of those who deserve it.
well, clearly those all no one deserves to be in chains here for a well. First of all, who here does what would cause someone to require having chains put upon them?
She doesn't appear to be willing to speak further. They're all hanging their heads at this point when they realize that you haven't come here to free them. The drummer begins drumming again, and they begin rowing again.
I will return to free all of you.
They're not paying attention anymore. They've returned back to their task.
I leave through the door.
You hear from above decks. You hear Don.
Okay then. I go I go I go to the up I go to the to the upper deck to go ahead and see what Don is doing.
As you ascend the steps to the upper deck of the mayor's pleasure barge. As you do, the first thing you notice is that the sky is beginning to lighten, as if the dawn is breaking. As you emerge above decks, you see that the mountain is closer, and you see the sun is rising from behind it, and from behind you see at the mountaintop in silhouette, the great temple, up the great temple at the top, illuminate backlit against a brilliant golden sky, and a great tree that has grown up next to it, um, that is also silhouetted against the sky.
Hmm.
And that is where we shall pause for the evening, with your arrival at the city of Solaire.
Is that the end of session 0, or is